Yeah, we always.
Hello, everyone.
Who have we just defamed?
Sam.
Does he live on Humberston Avenue?
Not anymore.
There's thousands of people. There's thousands of people live on Humberston Avenue these days. It's far from exclusive.
Oh, has it got a brass plaque? Is it? You know,
it's just bloody. There's millions of houses down there now.
I've told you a million times about exaggerating, mate.
I got loads of.
Sorry, mate. Yeah. Well, put it this way: Humberston School's going to need an upper tier soon.
Hang on,
really?
Is this a full-time thing now, Bruce? This angle.
Ooh.
I'm on my phone now, mate, because the PC used to be shit. Didn't it? You'd start the pod, I'd hear the first few minutes, and you'd actually finished.
Yeah, then it was done. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on a rearranged day. By the way, I'm at the England game tomorrow, so
and we have nothing better to do on a Saturday night.
Well, what is there to do on a Saturday night? TV shit. I'm a dad. You're a dad. Bruce is a dad. What are we doing? There's nothing.
I'm home alone, mate.
You're watching Home Alone, or you? I'm slightly worried.
I am. Claire's at work. Maisie's at that age now. She's at the roller disco, due back any time.
What's the roller disco?
If a dad's at home on his own, we're interrupting some quality time with himself.
No, I'm all yours tonight.
That's what's the roller disco? Because when I was a kid, it was the aqua disco. You have to go down to Maggie's leisure centre.
Well, it's like the aqua disco. Sorry, the aqua disco. Oh, it's the aqua disco. Sorry, it's the aqua disco with roller skates, but not in the water.
Is it in the swimming pool though?
It's in the sports hall.
Which sports hall?
Clifftop Pleasure.
Oh, okay. The aqua disco was all right.
Yeah, it all gets a bit. There's lots of young kids and there's lots of testosterone and the female version of testosterone flying around. It can be a bit lively, I believe, but you've got to let them out into the open and expose them to these things, haven't you, to prepare them for.
Don't use the word like young kids
for later life and shopping in Asda.
Shopping in Asda. I used to love shop. Do you know what? It used to be a main source of income for me when I used to work in town, and I used to have to. My dad used to drop us off because he used to go to Pettit's, and he used to start at like 5:30, something like that, and then he would leave me. So I'd go to Mackie D's, and I wouldn't start work till like 8:30. And so then I'd walk to Asda, and it was just as they'd brought in these automated checkouts, and so all the people that came in that were pissed would forget their change, especially the notes. So I used to get like £5-10 notes at least once a week from Asda from just someone forgetting to bring it out. So cheers very much. Thanks very much, everyone. You paid for my notes out.
Now you live in leafy Surrey.
Yeah, it's how I afforded the deposit on the house.
So Grimsby made you the man that you are today.
Oh, absolutely.
Literally.
Morning, Andrew. How are you? Yeah, do you know what?
Oh, I wish I was Andrew. I've got a couple in the fridge. I should have brought one, shouldn't I? Sorry.
Is it Magnus anymore? Does Magnus still exist, or is it something else?
No, it still exists, yeah. Either that or the ones I've got are massively out of date, but I don't think that's true.
I got a message today from someone on Facebook that's added me that listens to the pod, and he listens from somewhere really extreme. I'm just trying to find it now. I might need to put my glasses on, sadly. Where is it? Messaged me this morning.
Branzome Estate.
Branzome. They'll be grateful to get any sort of coverage next year.
What does that mean?
Where is it? You two keep talking, and I'll come back to you in a minute.
What did that mean about the Branzome?
Oh, that's Hull, isn't it? Sorry, I was thinking Scunny. Sorry, that was shit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
no. Are you thinking about Bromsgrove when they play them next year? Is that where your mind's gone?
Banbury, mate. They're off to Banbury next year. They need to, but Banbury are somehow in the conference. They're in the conference north. Well, that's near Oxford.
Gloucester, weren't they?
That's near Oxford, isn't it?
Yeah, it's near me. Same with Gloucester as well. Gloucester in.
That's just unlucky, isn't it?
It was the.
Town did join the first ever season of Division 3, which was actually basically the Division 3 South. So they were the only team from the north in it. That must have been a pretty shit season for away days.
Oh, good for me. Can I also just thank everybody as well for giving me tips on how to get to Wembley tomorrow? Because unless it involves the torch and drinking copious amounts of booze, I'm kind of lost. But I should have really not asked on the podcast because it's just park at Stanmore. So thanks, guys. But I do live in Surrey, so then I'm driving all the way around to the other side of London.
I found it. The message was from David McLeod of the clan McLeod. For anybody that is a bit old like me, then. Always look forward to from Stornoway. Where's Stornoway?
It's up north. It's in the Orkneys, isn't it?
I know, that's quality, isn't it? So hi, David. Thanks for listening and watching, or however you're taking the pod.
It's in the Orkneys, Outer Hebrides.
That's good effort, isn't it?
That is. I mean, Tealby can feel quite remote, but that's nothing in comparison to Stornoway. That was it.
So how are you both anyway? You
living the dream, mate.
Yeah, it feels I don't mind admitting that when you put your message on about doing the pod tonight, that I suggested that maybe we could have a week off, and you two both poo-pooed it and said we've just been in the quarterfinal. But I've been to Mansfield since then, and I've watched us draw at home again. It feels like Brighton feels weeks ago, and it was only last Sunday, not even a week ago yet. It's mental.
Well, do you know what? I got prompted by the Brighton Albion Raw podcast to ask if we were doing anything on it. I was like, I don't really want to. We lost 5-0. Like,
you're all right, fellas. You're all right. Leave it.
I'm sure you do want to reminisce, but I'm all right. And do you know what? The further we'll do something proper on it at some point. I'm sure we'll do an FA Cup thing. But the more that I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking it's like the first half was fine, but then the second half we let it get away from ourselves a little bit, and it wasn't. You know, Bruce, you were worried about it being a Chelsea 7-1. It wasn't that, but it wasn't far off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, they when you get that sort of scoreline, they missed quite a few opportunities as well, didn't they?
Oh yeah, Matoma missed an absolute golden one in front of us, didn't he?
But I think you probably need that. I mean, I said coming out that I'd have been absolutely delighted. I said ages before 3 or 4. I'll take that now. And we're going into stoppage time, or the last minute it was 4, and they didn't need that little bit of good fortune with the deflection off Waterfall. I know it was his own mistake that led to it with a tired. I would call it a run out of defence, but it wasn't even that, was it? But yeah, they didn't need that little bit.
Stormed out of defence, Bruce.
They didn't need that little bit of luck for the 5th, did they? And I mean, Crocombe went down like. Well, I'm not even going to comment on that. It was very slow, put it that way. And whether his cramp was kicking in by that point, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I pressed it. This looks a bit posh. Right. I'll take. Okay, before we do the podcast proper, let's have a little bit of a game to cheer us up. So I have currently got up the 2022-2023 league table for National League North. We're going to do a quick round robin, and the last one to name some teams. The most humiliating, the better, please.
Could I just say before we do anything, is it not unfair to play any game that involves football related trivia with Bruce?
I'm sure it'll be all right.
He's forgotten how to tie his shoelaces because he remembers that in 1986 an offside was given.
It wasn't offside though. That's
in a Sunday league game. He just knows that information. Crack on.
Right, go on, Mike.
I'm not that good. What do you want to know?
So it's going to be a bit of a round robin. You two have got to give me teams from National League North. Who are Scunny going to be playing next season? So current. So I don't care, if they're running away with the league or going to get relegated. Who's it going to be? Go on, Mike. You get first shot.
Filed.
Filed. Yes.
Filed. Flied. That's in Scotland.
What about you, Bruce? It's worth remembering. Filed 5 points clear at the top. Boston United. Yes, absolutely. Mike, any more? Hereford, yes, 16th.
Alfreton,
yes, 10th. One of our favourite away days. Banbury, yes, you remember that one rightly. You're going quite well at this. Any more? Go on then, Bruce. I think you're going to win this one because I think Mike's going to.
I don't think I am. I have just had a look at the table, to be fair, and I still can't remember any of them. Bradford Park Avenue, bottom of the table, looking like they're struggling.
They're not bottom of the table. They're second bottom.
Oh, sorry.
But, I mean, the way their form's going, they will be bottom quite soon. Yes, Bradford Park Avenue.
Gloucester.
Gloucester. I think they got relegated. No, they didn't. 8th in the league.
Because you said them a minute ago. That's the only reason. I'm in
Paul
trouble
Groves. Paul Groves managed them.
Who's that lot in? I'm really struggling now, and it's probably because I'm not even thinking that hard.
What's your favourite bottle of mineral water?
Buxton, is it?
Yeah, Buxton.
Fuck off,
What about you,
Mate,
Mike?
that's a cheat, isn't it?
Mike, what about you? To even it up.
Peterborough Sports.
Peterborough Sports. Yeah, they're their current manager. Go on, Bruce.
I don't
Peterborough
need help.
Sports. Peterborough Sports are in the Conference North.
Yeah,
That's mental. They're
above Boston.
Yeah, who's that team?
Boston Gold.
Farsley Celtic.
Farsley Celtic. Yes, 20th.
Yes.
Do I not get like a mineral water hint that you had to give Bruce?
Yeah, when you start struggling, I'm going to give you a hint.
Mate, I'm struggling with the first answer, to be fair.
Russell Slade and Max Wright's former teams.
Oh, Scarborough.
There you go.
Hour and 20 minutes on bus.
Go on, Bruce, coming in your ears.
Oh, Charlie. I like your clues. This is good.
That's a bit too south, maybe.
Mike, the only team that plays in 2 countries at the same time.
Oh.
Bruce has got it.
Plays in 2 bloody countries.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a corner at some point.
Kings Lynn.
Well, it's not. Yeah, but fine.
I know it's not Kings Lynn, but
Maisie, how was the roller disco?
Maisie, Alex wants to talk to you quick. Oh, she's gone all shy, mate. How was the roller disco?
At the moment, the way that Magnus is like,
you got
anyone break their nose?
They didn't get. Oh, wait, sorry. They didn't get injured this week.
It's like an interview with Paul Hurst.
Oh, somebody gets a twisted ankle every week, mate.
It's too much beer, too many apple sours.
will they make it in time for Saturday?
We haven't even started the podcast yet.
Right.
Was that right with Kings Lynn, by the way?
Kings Lynn, you are right. Yes, obviously they got relegated.
Chester,
yes. Mike, James Acaster's favourite team.
Kidderminster.
Who?
No, but Kidderminster is the team. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's James O'Brien's favourite team.
Are Darlington in there now?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, this is going quite well, Mike.
I'm very impressed with all of both of you.
Oh, right. I need a clue, mate. I need a clue that's not the other 2 clues you've given me. Blythe.
Yes, I was going to go. This is Sparta. Blythe Spartans. Yep. Coming up against him on Tuesday night, Bruce.
This is North. Who's that bloody team from Yorkshire that we drew with away from home in the conference?
Simon Hodson is saying he's really liking the product placement. I mean, docs are going to be really annoyed at this podcast. I'm going to have a phone call from Will by the end of it.
Oh, who was that team in bloody Yorkshire?
Justin saying the table's
it's
reflecting
not the
in your
table, it's the comments.
I'm struggling.
There you go, look.
My mind's going. I've had too many pints of Madry in the bar. It's the Mariners Trust's fault.
Oh my God, I win this.
One with a weird name.
Sorry?
There's one with a weird name.
Aren't they all weird?
Scunthorpe.
No, not yet. Next year.
Are they relegated yet? Are they officially down?
No, I still think they might get out.
I give in. I think we need to move on from this.
Do you know what? Yeah, you both did it exceptionally well. AFC Telford is one of them.
Oh, I had that. I had more to come.
I've been to Telford. Bucks Head.
Spennymoor Town. Curzon Ashton. Southport. I'm surprised you didn't get that.
I've been there. Yeah, I've been there.
And I think that's all you missed, actually. Brackley Town was the other one.
We've not done bad there, have we?
Oh, do you know what? I'm impressed with both of you.
I don't think I'd have got any more, to be honest.
I think. Who was that team somebody that's listening? A team in Yorkshire, somewhere near Leeds, that's sort of off the M62, and I can't think what it was. Guiseley. Where are they now? Are they not even in there?
No, they're not there. And do you know what? As a reward, you both get the jingle.
Open wide for some soccer!
And now the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency at 1130. Go! At 1130.
the Football League.
Love it.
"15 minutes in and we start." Right. Nolan also says that we missed out Leamington and Kettering. Marcus Bignot managed Guys and got them relegated. They're in the Northern Premier League. So, Mike, welcome. Thank you very much. I know we've been talking for a quarter of an hour, but great to have you on board.
Hello, mate. How are you? Nice to
I'm
see
good,
you.
thank you. You know, Soccer AM may be ending, but we've got our very own Fenners on the podcast. Bruce, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, good. We're allowed to take that name now. We're not going to be lawsuited because they don't exist.
Copyright.
Yeah. So, thank you for joining us on a Saturday. Immediate reaction. So, no one's had any time to digest it. Grimsby Town run out a 1-1 draw with Walsall. Frustration, maybe. I don't know. Is it the same as what it was at Mansfield, which we'll also touch upon? Bruce, you were there, though you spent the second half in a bar. What were your takeaways from the... Sorry for saying takeaways. That's terrible.
That's all right. The bar was warm. And I was just after half time. One of the lads said, "You fancy another pint?" And Maisie was with a friend today, so she was quite happy sat in the lower. And yeah, it was a very pleasant day at the park. I thought both teams had a go in the first. It's a bit like Tuesday or Wednesday, really. Both teams had a go in the first half. We had a few goes in the second half, and if McAtee could hit the target and be a little bit more composed in front of goal, I think we'd have won it. I thought we were the better side.
Oh, put your heart out on. Yeah, no. Do you know what? It was. I found it relatively frustrating, though. I did enjoy it, and it's a different form of frustration that I got from, say, watching games like when we played Sutton, the worst game of football I've seen for like 50 years, and I'm only 36. And there was a couple of others that have been like that. Have just been dearth. And just been, where football goes to die. The frustration came today was where I think we had a chance at taking it. And this is, just, do we want to talk about it? But it's the same old adage with Hurst. If it was just a little bit braver and a little bit, more adventurous, then maybe we could have come away with 3 points. But I thought for dominating, I didn't think we were that impressive. I thought our passing was pretty wayward. I thought some of the decision-making we made was pretty poor. I thought we defended set pieces quite poorly, especially when it came to corners. We were a bit of, I just thought, it was a bit frustrating, but I thought we were the better team, which is nice, I guess. But what I'm saying is a point's fine, but 3 points is better.
I'll be honest. I'm a bit closer to Bruce than yourself on that. I completely understand where you're coming from. For me, it was a more enjoyable game to watch than I've seen for quite a while. I think if you think back to the games you've been speaking about, Sutton and Colchester and things like that, there were big teams that played a certain way, and we just couldn't change that. And I think we did well, other than winning the game, which is what you have to do. You have to win these games. But I have seen over the last couple of weeks, at least, definite progression in how we're playing. We're not the finished article by any means, and we need to turn these draws into wins at home. But if you go back to December, January, February, when we're talking about some of the home performances, we're definitely not having 22 shots on goal. Now, I know 22 shots on goal and 1 goal is not good enough, but it's a definite move in the right direction. And, we're in and around the place where we haven't finished for 16 years or so. With a couple of games in hand, we've had a really good FA Cup run. We need to change these draws into wins at home, but I honestly don't think we're too far away with a window in having a team that can push on and challenge. And as I say, just over the last few weeks, we've definitely seen a change in how the team are playing, and they're creating more. So we've gone from being a team that can't create chances to a team that now can't convert them. So logically, hopefully, the next step is we start converting those. So I'm a lot happier. I get that the fans at home need to start seeing results, because it's a long old slog to go to Blundell Park every week and see a loss, a draw, and a win. But hopefully that will come, because if you look at the table, we're 3 or 4 wins away from being in and around the playoffs. And I think next season that's not a massive hurdle to overcome in a second year. Plus the fact we've been playing 59 games this season, that might be worth a couple of wins. So I don't think there's much needed to progress next season. Turning those draws into wins is the thing. So step in the right direction, a long way to go, but I'm certainly happy with what I'm watching when we're playing at home.
I think the last 2 games have been against teams that have had a bit of a go. And I also think that Hurst has played a more attacking front three. I think we look a different team for having Taylor available again. I think all the doubters, if we don't sign Taylor next season, if we're going to play this way, then I think we need to make sure we've got a Taylor-like player that we can play off, because I think he makes a huge difference to the team. I think we need to get Lloyd signed up. I like George Lloyd, his quality. He's just got a knack of getting his body around huge players and getting the other side of them. He sort of slides around them. I don't know how he does it really, but I just hope that, I don't know whether this attacking thing that we're doing, a little bit more attacking, is down to the fact that Hursty thinks we're safe. So would it be the same next season until we were safe, or is he going to go for a more attacking, attacking outlook that's going to?
Is there something to be said that he hasn't had those players available to him, so this is now when he can play them? So
yeah, maybe.
Taylor's,
yeah. Sorry, mate. Maybe.
I will say George Lloyd is a very good example for, it doesn't matter what level of ability you've got. If you put yourself about and bloody try hard, it instantly makes you a better player. I've seen players with maybe more ability than him not be as effectual as him. I just love the way he runs around, gets hold of the ball, turns the ball over in places where we're not expecting to get it. And that means you're in their final third in transition. You get a chance to score. So, I'd love to see him here next season. I think with regards how we're playing, I would be surprised to see us setting up like this next year. I think he plays 2 in the middle of the park, which when you're playing 2, he hasn't got the room for somebody who's better on the ball and not maybe as good defensively like Hunt. If you put a Hunt in there, I don't think we're as defensively solid as we need to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went to a 3 in midfield next season. But this is definitely a little bit of an experiment, and those 3 up front look good.
Can I don't want to be the harbinger of doom, and I just want to, maybe I'm using it as a therapy session. There was an interview Paul Hurst did back against Colchester when we beat them. And I think it was Scott actually of this parish who asked him, how are you enjoying the 5 substitutes? And he goes, I wish I had more. Why would he want more when he doesn't use the 5 available to him? Now, he made a comment in the post-match interview that he was worried about the size and the physicality of the Walsall players. But I thought there were players that were almost like for like that could come on and change it a little bit this afternoon. And are we just going over old ground? And I mean Emmanuel for Afete, because I thought Afete was given the space of the keys to Blundell Park today. He had so much space. He could have been on, the nature reserve or on the Hale Sandfort and still been as close to Walsall player. I thought Emmanuel would have taken more of an opportunity than Afete did. I thought Afete didn't have a very good game today in comparison to, say, how he played at Brighton or Mansfield. And Clifton in for maybe Morris, who looked to be flagging. And then maybe Orsi on for McAtee, who, Bruce, I think you alluded to it a little bit, was just didn't have his range finder on today. And then maybe even Glennon for Amos just to mix it up. I don't think they would have necessarily taken any of the physicality out of the team. Is there a reason? Is there a reason why he didn't make those substitutions, or am I just, it's Paul Hurst, get used to it. This is what he does.
I think we've spoken about this a lot, and sometimes the criticism is valid, but I don't think it's as valid as it is made out to be. And I think we had a chat, or I was definitely chatting to somebody on social media today about the fact that we've seen him change teams when we're in the ascendancy, and it sort of just kills it off. So now I might have been seeing a different game from other people, but I thought in the last 25 minutes that we were sort of on top with a chance of nicking it. Gary Croft seemed to think the same. He said he might have made a sub, but he wouldn't now in the 70th minute. And there is an argument that if those players out there are up to the pace of the game, are not dominating, but they're definitely on top and with a chance of nicking it, there's a case for what are you changing it for? If it's legs in the middle of the park, then that's fine. But if it's for anything else, then surely you just stick with the guys that are creating the chances and hope it pays off. Now, personally, I would have played Emmanuel instead of Afete anyway. I think that's a valid change, I think, because Fete seemed to have an awful lot of room on that right-hand side and didn't use it well enough. So that would have been something I'd have looked at. But other than that, I don't really see much that would have changed us, really.
Would you start disregarding the players a little bit that aren't here next season? I mean, you're talking about a Fete, who Hurst has already said maybe a Fete, not a Fete. Yeah, sorry, you're talking about a Fete. He is here next season. You're talking about Emmanuel, who Hurst has said he doesn't think will be, and maybe he's made that quite clear already. Do you start sort of, McAtee's done really well for us, but he's not going to be here next year. Do we still consider him an essential player, or do we sort of start using our players that are going to be here next year? Having said that, we've only got Orsi up front under contract, so there aren't too many of them. But
I think to some extent, yes, Bruce. But then you don't want to do that too much, because then you're probably playing a team that doesn't, probably doesn't stand a good a chance of winning a game as the squad in general. So then you start, if you lose 4, 5, or 6, at the end of the season, instantly that changes the outlook on the season, because you've lost all those games. So I think it needs to be something in the back of his mind, but isn't something that I think should drive selection, at least now. Maybe the last week or two, but I think he has to put the team out he thinks is going to win.
So Stephen McDade makes a point. Stephen, you're a forward player, so you know this more than I do, but I'm going to question something on this. He says, for me, he's resting players and not bringing them on knowing they will start on Tuesday. Valid point. But with my very limited knowledge, I would have thought, to minimise injuries, to minimise fatigue, would it not be better to share the load during games rather than, say, flogging? Who was it that went down in the first half for legitimate cramp? Who is it that went down with? Was it Lloyd? And I know Bryn Morris was struggling at a part halfway through. Surely sharing the load and bringing a player on for 20 minutes so that the other players are not flogging their guts out for 95 minutes and potentially risking muscle injuries and other such things. Would that not help that situation? Because ultimately then you are helping and you've got 5 substitutions available to you. And if you want to give players a rest, then you do what you did today with, I think, Holohan and who else didn't make the squad today? And actually give them a legitimate rest and say, lads, just don't even bother coming in, stay at home, put your feet up.
I do think as well, we're not entirely sure if anything carrying Knox. I know Clifton a couple of weeks ago, they said had a calf issue. So maybe he's on the bench, but he doesn't want to risk him unless he has to. So maybe that's something to consider as well. Players like Green that have had a long time out. I'm no expert, but sometimes it's better pushing them through a wall to gain the extra fitness sometimes. But I'm sort of guessing, really.
I've got to put on record. I found today reminded me a little bit of when we lost to Southend last season, where I was actually genuinely frustrated with Hurst's lack of changes. It doesn't happen that often, actually, given that people do complain about his lack of substitutions, but I think there is sometimes an element of a lack of tactical nous to make that decision immediately in a game, not over the long term. And I think we do. Stephen came back and said, if they manage the training recovery correctly, then they play a game, and rest a game is a no method they managed. I just think that, you know better than I do, don't you?
Do you think, Alex, do you think that maybe when it comes to the substitutions, that we've got that many backroom staff now that by the time they've talked about it, 10 or 15 minutes has passed?
It's like time to come off. Yeah.
Steve Crowdson's on page 50 of his set plays thing.
Richard, do you know what you've commented on something that I noticed as well? Hurst was a little bit prickly with JT today when he was asked about why players are being rested, and I understand that he's probably got a method in his madness in terms of how he resting players. But I thought he came across as a bit prickly. Just go, because I would have just said, look, I'm managing. You know how many games we've got. We're just, we will obviously be rotating the team to make sure we minimise injuries and maximise what we can get out of it. Said he won't be answering the question anymore until the end of the season. But I think it's worth, Richard, for anyone who doesn't listen, he was a little bit prickly, but he wasn't. He did make a comment, so look, I understand why you made that comment, but I won't be answering this question going forward.
I think he is asking an awful lot, isn't he?
Yeah. I guess, though, if you're in... I'm trying to think, because we interview players every now and then, and if I'm interviewing Hurst every week, I can't just keep asking. The novelty wears off of asking him like, when do you get up to drive to Grimsby and all that sort of stuff. It's more very much who's available, who isn't available. Why did you make this change? Why didn't you make that change? I guess it's very different from Tim Messenger from Hot Fuzz just asking, what's your perfect Saturday? 3 points.
I don't know if he does listen, and he probably doesn't. But if you are listening, John, please just ask him next week just for fun.
What's his perfect Saturday?
No, ask him. No, ask him the resting players question again.
Ask him about a player that's gone back like off loan. Like, why did you not play Brendan Kiernan today? Which is legitimately probably the same question you could ask of Sean Scannell.
Do you feel releasing Marcus Marshall was an issue? We could have done better this season if Marcus had stayed.
What do you think of Manny Desarouve, and why did he not play this evening?
Talk to me about Anthony Straker.
Yeah.
Why did you upgrade Townsend with Amos?
Yeah. Do you feel that it's justified paying a full-time wage for Sean Pearson to sort out match tickets?
Oh, Ben, is this on now? I'm sorry, I thought his fight was at 9. So Levi Giles, is it on now?
Yeah, I believe so.
So Levi Giles has just had Up the Mariners on as he walks out into the ring.
Oh.
He was done dirty yesterday with that push. He had his hands behind his back and everything. I hope he absolutely hammers him.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
So good luck, Levi. I mean, you're in the middle of the ring, so this won't help. Maybe he has his podcast on in his ears.
As well, if he'd brought Hunt on, for example, he'd have probably had to change the formation as well because he wouldn't.
Well, Josh says Clifton doesn't suit today's system. I think Clifton plays anywhere, but I mean,
I think he suits a 3 better. I think he, like you said at the start of the season when we all laughed at you, I think he suits that advanced midfielder getting up with attack, but then getting back into the midfield. I think that's his sort of the third of the 3 centre midfielders. But I think if Hunt came on today, you would probably be looking at, well, do we have to change the system because they're just going to break through it? Because for all the quality Hunt has on the ball, he's definitely not developed the defensive side as much as he maybe should have done by now.
Yeah. I thought it was a really interesting sort of performance, actually. I thought it's one of those games where like you think of when we got relegated, we would struggle to control play a game like that. And we did today, and there's still grumblings. And I don't know. We're heading towards 14th, 13th, which is where I want it to be. So I'm happy with that. Quarterfinals of the FA Cup, not bad, I suppose. We didn't win it.
Do you know, it genuinely does make me wonder what some people's, I mean, away from people that got legitimate criticisms, but there are some people, and you have to wonder, genuinely, what did they expect this season? Because I think this is entirely what most people would have expected and would have been happy with. But there's some people that are baying for blood because we're not in the playoffs. I mean, it's sometimes I think people need to get a better grip of reality sometimes. I don't think we was ever going to do that.
I genuinely do think there's something about being town, and because you're so used to it being feast or famine, so you're either, top of the league or fighting relegation, that there is a genuine inability to deal with slow, steady progress. And I think football as a mantra now is like that. You don't have. Look at Bayern Munich this week. They sucked Julian Nagelsmann for, a point off top spot, and we're in absolutely just basted PSG. It seems that football as a whole is like that nowadays, and people aren't patient when it comes to the football.
It's probably
Russell Slade's going to take them to the next level now.
Well, tickle pink, I am. Tickle pink.
I'll be honest, it's probably a reflection on the world, though, in society. We want everything now, don't we? Everything's accessible and happens now. And I think you look at football, and the teams that don't stick by managers or plans and things might have short-term success, but it very rarely pays out long-term. So I think that's where we're quite lucky that we have people that, in Jason's interview today on Humberside, he said, we're not looking at a year's plan. We've got an outside consultant. We're looking at a 10-year plan. And I think that we, in a couple of years, will be very happy that we actually had somebody that did that, because we've seen what the opposite is, not having a plan or having a year-on-year plan. It's down the bottom of League Two, just hoping you're better than 2 others.
Richard, I love you, but I'm not.
Yeah,
Richard, I love you, but I'm not denigrating this podcast by asking questions about different flavoured Quavers crisps just because Bruce is eating a packet of Quavers.
Prawn cocktail, revolutionary.
I love the fact we have just played an FA Cup quarter-final, and we haven't talked about it yet, really. And we played a half-decent game at Mansfield where we took 1,300 fans, who, by the way, sounded incredible. And, you know, had a half-decent point against Walsall today. And so far, we've lifted the conversation with Magners, Roller Disco, the entire league table of the National League North, and Quavers crisps. Simon Hodson says other crisps are available. They are available unless a crisp manufacturer wants to sponsor this podcast, in which they are the only crisps that are available.
It's amazing, isn't it? FA Cup quarter final. Like, are we not entertained enough?
No, we're not.
Just that, what's that gladiator gif I keep getting in my mind? Are you not entertained?
Well, actually, I thought you should have pushed him up a bit further on the right.
I would be entertained, but do a fucking sub for Christ's sake.
Yeah, come on, Russell Crowe, shake a fucking leg. What are you doing?
Do you know, it might be a case, Alex, talking about subs, it might be a case going back to the fans forum where he says, if you shout and do a sub, I'm less likely to do it.
That's probably, I'd forgotten all about that.
We need to tell the people in the main stand to shut up, because I bet they're shouting at him.
Look what we did at Gillingham. We shouted at him, we don't need a sub.
Subs.
He brought on a sub, and then the sub scored.
We're claiming it.
Was Holohan a sub at Gillingham?
I thought he was. Have I got it wrong?
Oh,
no, you know he put it up, mate. I haven't got a clue, mate. I just.
Oh, I don't.
I forgot about Gillingham.
Mr. Fax there, he should know.
Yeah, we don't even have the guy from Crawley on today, the crypto guy.
Oh, I love that guy.
Sorry, I didn't think about it. I thought we got so many games to talk about and stuff that we won't bother.
Didn't he want 10 wins? Actually, he's turned out he's not, you know, they're doing all right, aren't they?
Don't say stuff
like
that.
Have we done much? How much of my agenda have we worked through?
The apology you've still got to do.
What's the apology for? Go on. Hang on.
I think I should say
we'll come back for the second half of this because we've got to play a message out. And if you do see our flag around on tour, please do let us know because someone has stolen our flag. Right, Bruce has got an apology. Bruce, what are you apologising for? Hang on.
I feel really bad about this.
Why? What you done?
I've thought all week about whether I should bring it up or not. But on last week's podcast, I made out like I was a really big Town fan and said that I'd been to every game in the FA Cup run, and I didn't go to Cambridge.
Oh, you shithouse. You absolute.
I gave it all Billy Big Bollocks.
You
what a big
tried.
Town fan I am.
You tried to make us all look like melts, and there you are.
And I didn't go to Cambridge.
I don't
so
know.
For that, I wholeheartedly apologise for that lie, and I accept any consequences that come with my actions. Thank you.
I don't know about consequences, mate. I don't think we can move past this. It's a big deal.
Breaking news: Bruce apologises live on the podcast for being an absolute shithouse and a liar. He has misled the pod.
I'm deeply troubled.
When we're watching him on Twitter saying this happened in on this day 25 years ago, how do we know? You've broken the trust. You lose trust, Bruce.
I'm sorry.
So if you do have a thought of he's left, if you do think you have a way that Bruce could, really demonstrate his, what would you call it? His humbleness. He's I don't know. Diabolical, says Nolan.
That were diabolical.
That were diabolical. Can't speak.
Speaking of diabolical, though, I did hear Nolan. I did see on social media today that Nolan was having a go at somebody for criticising something, which I thought was quite funny.
I love Nolan.
I don't know what to say to that.
Right.
Okay. We've gone from the apology. So Bruce has now apologised.
Do we not have to think of does he not have to do something?
If anybody does have an ethical way and a sustainable way of being able to punish Bruce for his, lies, then we do want to hear from you. Bruce put a little agenda together. I don't know why. The next bit on it was Scunthorpe on Humberside, which I assume is a legitimate piece of discussion because. Go on, Mike. What were you going to say?
Sorry, I was just going to say before we moved
You're
on.
mute
Bruce,
I can't hear you.
You got me now.
On mute.
You got me now.
Can't hear you.
You can.
I can hear you, Mike.
Humberside while
I
Mike
can hear you,
Mike.
can't himself out.
You got me now.
No,
You just replied no.
I'm genuinely not lying. Bruce, can you hear him either?
I can hear you, Mike.
What's going on here? I can't hear anybody. Maybe it's me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you and Bruce. Yes. What was going on then?
Worth the wait. Just before we move on from Bruce's apology, can if you follow Bruce on social media, can you just at him and call him a total shithouse? That'd be great. Thanks.
That'd be great. Yeah. Could you imagine if people are listening to this, through the ages, they're catching up on it, and then in 3 months' time, he gets called a shithouse for no reason.
My Twitter handle is @Sam Barrick, BARRICK.
There's a few other things you could say.
Nolan says, someone named Henry who shares your last name, Bruce, was criticising Bryn Morris, and I'm not having that. I slagged the lad off. Nolan, I thought Bryn played very well yesterday on Wednesday night and scored a good goal today, but I also think he's a little bit not amazing. I'm really sorry. So, Bruce, Scunthorpe on Humberside, I assume this is going to be a well-rounded piece that we should put into an episode.
No, well,
we haven't discussed an FA Cup quarter-final.
I've sort of stolen my own thunder, haven't I? Because I did tweet this out, but I just wondered whether they were. Matt Dean had tweeted from Notts County today, from Meadow Lane, and I just wondered whether next season does Scunthorpe. We've never. This is sort of it's uncharted territory, really, isn't it? Does Scunthorpe automatically get on Humberside next year when they're in the Ryman Premier, or do they? Do they have to? Is there some sort of vote with like?
Well,
North
Ferriby never had it. North Ferriby don't have it in National League North. I assume they'll say that there is an audience for it. I don't know how, but
will they go on Compass?
Scott's rubbing his hands together.
Yeah, I mean, what happens to Scunthorpe? When the
town,
nobody outside of the Vanarama gives a shit about the Vanarama. So God knows what happens when they go down below that.
Well, we'll ask Trail. I'll ask Trail of Debt. Ask him now what they do with BBC Lincolnshire, because there's nobody else there, is there?
Yeah, the link can just get all frequencies. I don't know. It's like I say, what happens? I mean,
Compass FM.
What happens to the? Do we need to sort of pray for the journalists that cover Scunthorpe, or maybe to be fair, maybe it's going to be good for them. I don't know.
It's interesting.
Like Burns.
Well, it's not interesting. I don't care.
Like Burns, he does Hull, doesn't he? And John Tonda does Town.
Does he?
I mean, Scunny seems to have a different one every year. It's like the short straw in the Humberside office, isn't it?
Do you know what I hate? Do you know what it's like having a mate who's really depressed and just gone through a breakup? Because most of the time at the moment, I'm coming off like a really decent performance with Town, or we're doing really well. Like Luton, we beat Luton, or we beat Plymouth 5-1. It's like, this is amazing. And then you go to the forum and it's just like, oh, and here's Dave. Scunthorpe have lost to 3-0 to Kilby United's under 11s.
It's like that mate, innit? When you just got engaged and you go to tell him, he's like, oh, she's left me. You're like, oh, okay.
What do? It's like, oh God, you're such a Debbie Downer. Like, just go away. Just deal with your breakup on your own somewhere, just not on live radio.
I got engaged when I was like 18 or something.
Hang on, what's this?
And then we broke up further down the line, and in them days you got given.
How's further down the line?
This evening,
2 or 3 years. It's about 2 or 3 years.
You were engaged for 3 years. No wonder it broke up.
I was a bit young to get engaged. It was a bit silly, really. But anyway, in them days, you got given you got engagement presents and stuff like tea towels and a kettle and stuff like that because you were going to move. And even though you haven't got married or anything, you just break up, and then it's like, who takes possession of the tea towels? Mental.
Do you think that's what the Crystal Palace fans, staff are feeling when they got Roy Hodgson a retirement present, and he was back like 18 months later?
Can we have it back, please, Roy?
Yeah, give us that fucking watch back.
Yeah, thanks very much. I put 50 quid into that.
He's not even wearing it. He's had it down the car boot.
He's only back till the summer, and I'll have to put another 50 quid in.
Do you know what? We haven't even asked. Was that a red card, by the way? The keeper pushing Lloyd in the back.
Nah.
Maisie said it was, but she's a bit. I don't know. She was watching from the lower. I was in the bar, so I wasn't really looking, if I'm honest. Then he sort of front up to Taylor, because Taylor sort of tried to bundle him in the goal with the ball and everything, didn't he? And he tipped it over the bar, and Tayller followed on through into him. Is that the one?
I thought it was Lloyd that followed into him, but yeah.
Oh,
well, no, it was Smith. So it was none of them. It was Smith.
All right.
Oh,
well.
It wasn't.
I watched on the telly.
It was only. It would have been a red card if Smith had gone over and made a deal of it, maybe, like Orsi style. But it's a shove in the back. It's a yellow card. I don't want to see red card for that, because then you're going into a little bit like, just get on with it. It's like 4th division football. It's a bit of that about. Get on with it.
Stephen says yellow card only.
Yeah.
Smith, Andrew. Don't just start shouting Smith, Andrew. It makes you sound mad. Right. You also then put comfort from the bar.
We've covered that.
Okay, fine. Mars long throw. Hang on. Let's do this so it's, integrated with our audience. Give me 2 seconds.
We're doing something technical now, are we?
He's going to bring Niall Maher in.
Hi, Niall. What do you want to say to Bruce?
Oh, God.
While you're doing that, I did try and do my bit for getting Josh Emmanuel to sign next season. I saw him after the Brighton game, and I told him that Cleethorpes has its own microclimate in August. It's like Nice, so he needs to stay, but I don't think he bought it.
You said it was like nice.
Nice.
Area. So Josh said, should we retire Mars long throw? Bruce, to you.
Yes.
Same. Agreed. Right.
He's
next.
not. He's not. He's not. He's got a reason. He's got a half decent throw, but Jordan Cropper, he is not.
Jordan Cropper scored another, helped assist another today from a long throw. I miss him.
Are we not judging another long throw on somebody who's got a crazy one? Because I admit Mars' throw this week was ridiculously bad, but in previous games he has seemed to get a lot more distance than that. So I don't know if it's just.
I think there are shit as our. I think there are shit as our corners. There are shit as our corners. It's a Hurst thing. Hurst only likes near post. He plays Football Manager because that's the way you score in Football Manager for corners, near post. That's it.
That's a bit harsh. Hurst is Football Manager.
It's not true.
I used to win the league playing 2-4-4 in Football Manager, in Champ Manager.
What, 2 defenders?
2-4-4, direct, long ball. You just like basically you just bombarded them, and it just absolutely pummeled them.
It's amazing how quickly you
only had 2 defenders, but you didn't need them.
It's amazing how quickly you forgo the beauties of football for a 3 points. Just get it in the mixer.
I've got a mate as well that when we used to play Champ Manager. I don't know if you listen, Paul, but if you are, you know I'm all about this. When he used to play, right, he plays games and he would cheat from the start, right? So he would start Champ Manager, Football Manager kids. He would start Champ Manager as like Grimsby, for example, and then he would join Man United and he would buy Grimsby's shittest players off them for like a fortune. And then he would basically sell Man United's players, the ones that would agree to go to Grimsby, for a bargain basement price. And then he'd retire the second Paul manager at Man United, and Grimsby would have like a massive pile of money and loads of decent players.
We've all got frustrated and done that on time to time.
Do you want to know how sad I am? So Charlie started to get into FIFA. My lad, he's 9, and he's got an obsession with. He doesn't stick with a career. He changes clubs every time, and he'll start with like $1 billion, and he'll buy like Haaland and Mbappe and Jude Bellingham, and he'll have like this incredible team. He'll create his own club, but he'll usually leave about 300 million left. And every time, knowing full well that that he will only play like 3 or 4 games in it, I always sell buy Harry Clifton for 100 million, knowing that at least in that timeline, that Grimsby Town has 100 million that it can use. I'm so sad.
Yeah, and there's somebody in that virtual timeline that's expecting that we're now going to go out and spend that on one player or something.
Well, do you know what? This podcast today is working beautiful today. So, this was your idea for today's Mike. We're like 10 minutes or so
wonder
left.
why I mentioned it.
I know. So, interview today. Jason Stockwood did one with Humberside, well worth a listen to, and was speaking about the FA Cup money and trying to ice. I would like to think he has seen the error of his ways, as we've discussed on this podcast, and gone, actually, if I say we're going to put all of that money, which people can kind of work out how much we get, 1.2, 1.3 million. If I say we're putting all of that into the playing budget next year, guess how much every player is going to be that I want to buy? 1.3 million. I'm kind of hoping it's that, but he did allude to the fact that that's not necessarily the case. The main stand is going to need apparently £300,000 worth of work done to it to just keep it going. Like the old fishy rumour that the main stand was going to be condemned at any moment from a fire safety certificate. And that a lot of the other money has gone elsewhere as well to, I don't know, training jet skis as we asked for and stuff like that. So, Mike, take it away from that. Have I done a good job explaining it?
Well, I mean, I just forwarded you and said maybe worth talking about, not giving it much thought. But, there's definitely been a narrative change. The narrative has changed from what he's been saying publicly. Before, it was very much this will all be pumped into the playing budget. And then very much as we've progressed, it's sort of gone backwards from that. So I think you're right. He's seen maybe that's not a good thing to advertise. And also, for whatever we've made, you've got to take out all the expenses, and you've also got to take out the fact we probably budgeted a couple of rounds anyway. So the realised gains are probably not as much as we think. But he's quite right in the fact we've lost £1 million last year. We're probably going to lose £1 million this year. It makes us break even. Now, obviously, there is going to be more money in the budget because they're not spending it on the loss, so they can put some more money in elsewhere. But it's interesting you mentioned about the main stand, because £350,000 is an awful lot of money. And do we think that for that sort of money, we should be knocking it down and investing in a new stand? Because the best part of £500,000 going into fixing what must be electrics and things, isn't it better not just to knock it down and build something from the Osman to the Pony? Because I can't imagine you're spending a huge amount of money putting something up like that. So I don't know, do we actually have to spend 350 grand, or is this another way to say, oh, we haven't got as much money as you think we've got? Because I think he's definitely changed to making that argument, realizing that people are going to see that we've made money.
I think Bruce is doing some research, so I'm just going to steal his chance to.
I don't think
350,000,
Mike, would even get you the bloody main stand demolished these days. I think you've been a little bit. I think that.
Well, I was just trying to have a look to see how much the new Wrexham stand was going to cost, which is obviously, I know, bells and whistles.
I am thinking more along the lines of what Salford did, and I know they built one of their stands for about 800,000.
Can I just say as well, one thing I'm going to disagree with? Yeah, well, one thing
better than the main stand.
And I bet it's shit and it holds 5 people and it's still empty.
Can I also say, though, I want to disagree with Jason where he said it's a beautiful stand. The main stand's shit. I don't like it. Yeah. I don't care about it. I have no affiliation to it. I don't particularly like Blundell Park. I think it's a bit naff. But I know, I'm sorry, critical or what? I mean, it's home, but it's a home in Tiverton Street.
So you're not content with telling other people from other clubs where they live shit. You're now telling us where we live shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't like Blundell Park. It's cold. It's designed poorly. If you're disabled or elderly, it's a pretty shit way of getting to a ground. I mean, not to mention the thousands of pieces of dog shit. The paving slabs outside are as dangerous as anything, especially at night. I don't think the atmosphere is amazing. I don't think we do much about it. Josh is saying the old main stand should be protected. Historical building, cancel, Alex. Josh, I don't care. It's like Kenilworth Road. Kenilworth Road's lovely to go to for a day, but I don't want to live there. And I just don't think we get much out of Blundell Park. It's quite small. It's quite tight. We don't make much money from it. And I think if you're going to stay at a ground like that, which they've made clear that they want to, and that's fine, But you're going to have these things come out of the woodwork, which by the sounds of it is the problem. Bruce, now I've cancelled myself and I'm going to get more daggers than usual. What have you got to say?
I'm just going to stand massively back from that and not associate myself with any of that.
Well, what I'll say then is this. I don't think we use Blundell Park as well as we could do. Look, if it was like today was annoying, why were our fans in that tiny little bit of a corner, which, by the way, looked packed in the Osman stand, and we weren't given the larger bit and Walsall fans weren't stuck in there? We need to be using as much of the seats available to sell them. So if I'm a family of 5, I can, get somewhere. But Mike, I'm with you. I think if the main stand needs nearly over $250,000 spent on it, then they need to look at potentially knocking it down.
How many more years do we need to pump £300,000 into it? It's only a couple of years, and then you get into the cost of a stand.
Yep.
Absolutely. If it's going to be an ongoing issue, then why spend £350,000 now, and then in 2 years' time decide, right, we're not spending any more money on it? Why not?
And
just
it's
cut
not like
losses now?
And it's not like any of the other stands are brand new that won't need this sort of upkeep at some point in the near future. The Findus is what, 50 years old now, or getting on that way. Osmond is what, late 30s. Bruce, you'll probably know this better than I will. Pontoon 61, I think it was upgraded, and then it's had a bit of love in 95.
1995, yeah.
So I mean, none of these are going to be, it's not like buying a new car, is it? You're going to be taking it in and having to get a bit done to it every now and then. I just don't know. I mean,
I think Brighton taught me though that there's a limited number of sites in the town if we were to move. Now they're obviously not looking at moving. I do not want to stand at a train station for an hour in either direction to get out of the ground. So if it's not viable at the moment for us to move from Blundell Park, then I am more than happy for us to stay at Blundell Park. Do I think it needs developing? Yes. Is car parking an issue? I've been at Blundell Park when we've had 8,000 or 9,000. I don't think parking's any worse than it is now when we have 6. I don't think it matters once a fortnight if the streets are a bit busy. If you can't get parked within half a mile, then you walk a mile. It's not the end of the world. I don't think that would put people off coming. Agreed. So I don't think. I just think do Blundell Park up. I don't want to see the main stand go, but if we're going to stay, it's going to have to go. But we do. But the first thing we can do, to be fair, before we do all that, is bring that corner round, in my opinion, from the pontoon round to the main stand.
Yeah, get rid of that police box thing.
Get rid of that police box. There's nothing in that corner apart from a couple of ice cream vans and a St John's ambulance.
Yeah, agreed. And you can put that anywhere. Sorry,
that space is just empty. We could.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. And I mean the other corner. To be fair, with a little bit of reorganisation, the opposite corner, the constitutional corner, you've got the fan zone, but that's still a massive area. The fan zone could be redesigned. Those containers could be moved. Ultimately, what's more important, that we get more people in the ground, or that the trust has room to have a bar, and there's more, they could still do that underneath the stand if it was extended. So like you say, you could bring the Osmond round. Maybe if you did that, then you could find some way of sort of splitting the Osmond probably halfway. So the away fans would go in the corner, but the corner would be a little bit bigger than it is now, towards the middle of the goal. And then we would have the rest of the goal round to somewhere near the lower.
Right. So this is, I think I've talked about it before, but this is what Blundell Park looks like to me. So take away the police box, stick a new stand in there like Chesterfield. That takes you to about 3,500 on that side. So it increases it by about 1,000, and then fill in the corners, which give you another 500 people. Fill in the corner with the cage, and you put the away fans in that corner. So where it gets, slanted up until the end of the family stand. So they've got that corner there, and you can contract it and make it as big and as small as you need it to. So it doesn't really affect anybody. You then make the Osmond stand standing, whatever you call it now. I don't say standing. I don't care if it increases the attendance. It's about creating the atmosphere in the park, in the ground. And then you make that a home end, and you say, look, if you want to make a racket, if you want to make a noise, that's the stand you go in. They will be standing and tough tough if you don't want it like that way. The pontoon then becomes a family stand, especially that corner where they sing at the moment. And then you take the police box and you put it in the corner in the box that is currently in the Findus looking over the pontoon. And you put that in there, and then you fill around the edges. You then buy the 2 houses that are next to behind the bar, but behind the Findus, which allows you then to extend that one day if you want to, when they come up for sale. And then you also take the fan zone, you get rid of the parking, and you make the fan zone where the Findus is, and you cut that off, and you make that a massive fan zone. Executives can be parked at Cheapside or somewhere else, the new training ground, and bust in. The same with disabled people, and that's what I would do. If you're going to stay at Blundell Park, that's what you do. And I think you can get to about 13,000 at Blundell Park.
I think that all that sounds great, and I would agree that that's the ideal thing.
It costs a fucking fortune.
Yeah, but what I think they're a lot closer to realizing and knowing we need a new ground than they want to say publicly. I don't think what they say and what they think are completely the same thing, and I think they've learned the lesson from 20 years of having the Fenty Dome in the pipeline. You don't need that, and people constantly asking about it. I think they'll probably be planning, and this 10-year plan they're doing, this 10-year review, I'm sure a new stadium will fall into there. So they probably don't want to spend that sort of money. But if they wanted to stay at Blundell Park long term, so I'm talking a decade or two, then maybe they could do that. Just linking back into Brighton, what I did like, and maybe this is something we could look at, it'd be a bit difficult.
I like their players.
But what they did do is, we didn't get the train until an hour and a half after the game had finished, because the bars were open. You could get a pint and have a walk around the stadium and just hang around. So we went back to the players' entrance and just sat alone and watched the bus. But you could still buy a couple of beers an hour and a half after the game had ended, which I quite liked. They retained a lot of people. Instead of them going off to the local pubs, they stayed in the Brighton sort of surrounding area and made some money for the club. Now, obviously, you don't want the problems with the connection of the train and the park and ride, but it's something that could be looked at to try and retain money after a match day. If people are going out for a few beers after a match on Saturday, why not buy 3 or 4 pints in the ground instead of down at Blundell Park Hotel or wherever?
You can stay in the lower bar till about 5:30 normally. They're still serve right through the second half, right through the first half, to be fair.
Bruce doesn't go out to his seat anymore.
You can watch it. Well, I'm thinking as this season peters into mid-table obscurity, which I'm not.
You fall into lower Findus obscurity into the.
Yeah, I'm just sort of like, it was really comfy in the bar today. There was probably about 40 or 50 people in there. Like he's probably bought I don't know, 2 pints each, so they probably sold another sort of 60, 70 pints during the second half. Everyone's a winner for what I can make out. But so the bar does stay open after the game. I don't know about the round the ground, and you probably wouldn't want to stand freezing your knackers off outside the back of the pontoon in the open air. But the lower bar does stay open for a little bit. But then they do chase you out after about 25 minutes, half an hour.
I mean, it's definitely, I think, something that needs looking at next season. I think we chatted very briefly with Jason about it last week, didn't we? That we need to have a look at how we create a bit of an atmosphere at Blundell Park, because I've never known it so dead. I mean, I'm not there, but just listening, I've never known it so quiet. And I think we've said before, it's about the amount of season tickets and they're all dotted around. But I think we need to do something, or the club need to do something to try and make that a little bit more of an atmosphere, an environment that are good for home players and not good for away players. Because when we go away, it's rocking. I mean, you saw that at Brighton, and it's absolutely rocking. You come to Blundell Park, you've got all those fans, but they're all sat in different stands, with families. So I think a little bit of forethought, and only the club can do that, at trying to do something. And it's not about making singing sections and all this. It's about trying to get a group of people together, like the pontoon, in the middle of the pontoon. That's where you go. Don't expect, to not be stood up.
I think the atmosphere at Blundell Park has been shit since I've been there. Since, before I started watching Town 93, 94. So the last 2 years of terracing. And I think I think I've said it before, but to me, a terrace is organic. So if you've had one too many beers and you have a ticket for the pontoon and it was terracing, you weren't up for like being in the mosh pit behind the goal. You'd go stand in a corner. You can't do that when you've got a seat. And not unlike the housing crisis nowadays, people who have bought a pontoon seat in the 90s, who are now 50, 60, do not want to move. And they would be forced to move if it was standing and they were in the middle of a mosh pit like it used to be in the 80s that Bruce would probably remember. And as such now, people who are of younger generation are dotted around, and even now in that corner, it's getting a bit like that. I don't know if it feels a bit more harder to organise. And Bruce, you know more about it than I do, but I've been a season ticket holder at Blundell Park for enough years where I think I can talk about it. And I just don't think until you give them a new section to go, look, this is singing section, but this is where you go if you want to make a racket. If you're going to stand in there and get annoyed that someone stood up, well, so
tough, isn't it? I mean, I think the only way you can do it is to make a safe standing area, and then you sort of force people that, like, look, if you're buying a season ticket in the safe, and I know it's terrible, people have been there 20, 30 years, but you know, it is what it is. If you make it safe standing, if you make it safe standing, then people with tickets there are legitimately stood up. At the minute, you shouldn't be stood up. You know, we had the press release, didn't we, about you shouldn't be stood up, you should be sat down. But if you've got safe standing, there's no argument about making the people around you sitting down.
And I think I'm sorry, Bruce. I know you want to jump in.
Sorry.
I think the club want to advertise and are quite happy to promote the incredible atmosphere at Brighton, the incredible atmosphere at Mansfield and at Southampton. The reason they're like that is because people are up for it. But also, if you want to do that and you want to promote what fans are doing and singing and shouting, you're going to have to give them that space to do it. You can't just stick them in a corner like you've forgotten about them, like an island of lost toys, and do it that way. Tacklebury, you say buy the 6 houses behind Blundell Park, rotate them. It's actually 20 houses. I've done the math on it because I thought that's a good idea.
You're going to buy
20 houses
and 7 ton of dog shit.
And 7 ton of dog shit. Bruce, what were you going to say before I interrupted? Because I'm massively passionate on this one that is not useful.
No, I agree. I think I said to Jason in passing last week, didn't I? It wasn't the time to discuss it, but I think the club do need to. I agree with you too. I think the club do need to do something to. I think they need to talk to the Mariners Trust as a representative of the fans, and between them come up with some sort of plan to have it so that people. It was just this summer was unprecedented. And the loudest part of the ground this season has been that Osman corner because it is what you say. It's organic. It's where people that who are hardcore fans but can't justify a season ticket because they work shifts or they can't afford it or they can't afford to go every week or whatever. But that's where they all sit, and that's together and that's loud. And generally, that's fans who have been long-term fans, but like I say, just can't justify a season ticket. Most of your other casual fans are now season ticket holders. A lot of them are families, which is fantastic. The fans of the future, but they have intermingled with areas of the ground. When we sit at the Osmond end of the lower.
Are you saying Blundell Park's been gentrified?
Yes. It's been sanitised, but not through anybody's fault. But last summer when we went from 3,000 to 6,000 nearly season tickets. People were snapping up season tickets wherever in the ground they could. It didn't matter whether, some of the people that were buying season tickets wouldn't even particularly know what that part of the ground was like. So we sit at the Osmond end of the lower. We've sat there for 3 or 4 years since our nomadic period stopped. And when we had a big game, it used to be half empty down there, maybe 2/3 empty. But when we had a big game, all the lads that are probably going the Osmond now would buy tickets because they wanted to be near the away fans when there was a big following. Now it's full of families and stuff, and I think, like you say, I think we might have 3 family stands, but I think we need to try and sort something out so we can have an area where the youngsters, those that want to sing, those that want to stand, those that want to have a party, where they go. Because at the minute they're scattered around the ground and it doesn't help the atmosphere. And the club are asking the fans to produce an atmosphere. I think they need to work with the fans. I think they need to work with the fans in future. It's no one's fault. It's the first time this has happened.
Yeah.
The first season, but they need to look at it and say, right, we need to do something about that and work with the fans to do that.
Two things. It's, you're moving fans from wherever you choose the area to be. So what you can do, if you've got a season ticket in that area, anyone with a current season ticket can choose to buy one in the new area. Once that window closes, you can say anybody that was in the area people have moved into now has a choice of where they go before they go in general sale. So you can sort it out that way. But what really not annoyed me, but was frustrating was when they had the fan review. You know, the feedback that they got in. The club said they were surprised that only 30% of fans wanted a singing section. I think that's an extraordinarily large number of a fan base that want a singing section. You know, 30% of 8,000 fans is a lot of people. You know, so I don't know why just because it wasn't 50% plus one that wanted it, we sort of then went, oh, it's not the majority. It was a huge amount of fans that wanted it. So I don't know why.
2,000 fans. It's 2,000 fans out of today's attendance.
Yeah,
it?
so that's if you had 2,000 people, yeah, something like that. If you had 2,000 people coming at you and saying we want a singing section, you're not like, oh, it's only a smaller number. It's not. It's a huge number of fans. But it went by the wayside and we just never spoken about again. And it was like, oh, it was, you know, we were surprised how low that percentage was. Well, that's high.
Yeah, I think changes are needed. But if you're going to stay at Blundell Park, changes are needed because I think you're both right, and it ties into everything. I think the Jason, Andrew, and Debbie were massively taken back by 6,000 season ticket holders, and like, oh shit, we've got nowhere to put everyone. We haven't put any plans in place for it. That's unprecedented, and Blundell Park is not big enough because it just isn't big enough with 8,000, and it restricts quite a lot. And it's a lot. Everything now, they've done all the quick wins, all the quick things that can be done. Everything else now is expensive and will take time. And I think that's why, you know, we haven't seen much happening.
In fairness, we should still be playing Dorking and things like that. You know, it wasn't expected to go back up, was it? So obviously not part of the plan. We should still be playing National League football.
And Scunthorpe.
Yeah,
just for this season.
We're not that shit. Right.
We haven't really talked about Mansfield, Alex, have we?
It was a good game, wasn't it?
It was a good game. It was a good performance. Sorry, we are going to skim through this, I suspect. But it was
Alex said you want to wrap up about 5 minutes ago.
I want to watch the rest of the fight.
I haven't got my glasses on. Yeah, I just, it was a good performance. I made a late decision to go. I didn't regret it at all. We played really well. I thought we played, you know, an attacking side, which we obviously started similar today. And I thought the fans were, I know you've touched on it, I think, already, but to take 12 or 1,300 or whatever it was, you know, after all the trips that we've had, you know, some of these fans have been down to Southampton, up to Carlisle, down to Brighton, and 3 or 4 days later, Sutton, and 3 or 4 days later, they're at Mansfield.
And they'll be at Crawley on Tuesday night.
I don't think, yeah, that'll be interesting because that could be. I actually thought, and this is tin hat on, I thought the Southern Mariners let us down at Sutton to a certain extent. We've done a lot of travelling. You were there, Mike, so I'm not talking about you. But
why do I feel like this is aimed at me?
We've done a lot of travelling in recent times. I believe we took 200 and some to Sutton, didn't we?
I think it was more than what they said. Whatever they said, it was more.
Right. Well, it said we took 270, I think, didn't they? Something like that. I think there were probably 500 Southern Mariners, and there were some that travelled from home. I know, Alex, you couldn't make it, and I'm not. It's not a dig at you because you do a lot of travelling in the south particularly. But I don't think all the Southern Mariners that could have gone went to Sutton.
With all due respect, Alex. No disrespect to the likes of.
You've done a lot of travelling, but I don't think that all the Southern Mariners went to Sutton.
No, I didn't, and I know a lot of you. And the problem we have is, you know, if I'm looking at it, personal things aside, wife's birthday, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. Then Southampton, then Brighton, then you've got either a choice of Crawley or whatever. I think it's a bit hard for everyone, but I mean, it doesn't excuse the fact there wasn't that many there. It's still a little bit cheaper to get to them than it is for those. But a lot of
the northern fans have done, and I can say I'm not trying to create a divide. I'm just saying I don't think for that game. But
I mean,
a lot of the northern fans.
But he's always on about Southern fans, but he's not trying to create a divide.
Again, you've let us down.
The northern-based fans have done home games and a lot of away games as well.
You're just a better quality of fan.
Anyway, I thought the number would be higher. I thought that down south we should be guaranteed 500 with the travelling northerners and the southern-based. I think we should be guaranteed 500.
What I would say is if that was a Saturday, yes, I will just caveat it with not an excuse, but maybe mitigating circumstances. Sutton is a very difficult place to get to if you're at work, if you're working in London by kickoff. I'm 10 minutes away. I walked, but I know from other people that we chat to down here, people just literally, by the time you've got out of central London and got home, it's maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you've got an hour to get to Sutton. So that might be a bit of mitigation there.
But would you not, if it was a northerner going down south, you've got to book the afternoon off to do it. It's a commitment. You've got to book the afternoon off. Wouldn't people book the afternoon off because it was a local game?
Well, yeah, well, maybe, but then you're going into individual people's lives and saying you need to be off work that day. Like, people make a decision what they want to do. If somebody wants to come down, down south and use a day off, that's fine. But you can't then criticize other people because they can't or don't.
Okay.
I just want to apologise on behalf of all London-based and Southern Mariners for our dereliction of duty during the Sutton away game. We came together as a group to think how best we could help the team, and thought that Sutton was a game in which our efforts would not necessarily help. So we nominated a few people to go in accordance with the attendance that was there, to bring in a respectable percentage of the amount of fans that would be there in comparison to the home. We took 300 fans in comparison to the 1,200 fans that were there on the day, or however many it was, I don't care. And we decided to bring that as well. Those who were there were able to see a game of great performance and great ability, and saw the Mariners come away with an unlikely victory. On behalf of everybody in London, the Southeast, the Southwest, South, and parts of France, we would like to offer cordially our apologies for our poor nature. We will be at Crawley, and we will make sure that we make noise, because by then I'll have been paid. Thank you for your time.
Have you been talking to Sam? That very much sounded like I've been repeatedly assured it was not a football game, and I shouldn't have gone.
I have been told you can't do the pointing. That's the thing. You don't do pointing.
What is clear?
You tuck your thumb behind your hand. This has been a podcast of apologies.
Whoa.
Nolan says, if you aren't coming off your left arm to get to every game, you aren't a real fan. I've already cut it off once, Nolan. I can't do it twice.
I don't know what Mike's done, but I can just see I've got 20 plus notifications on Twitter.
I just called you a shithouse on Twitter.
Yeah, you told everyone else to call me a shithouse, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. That ULEZ zone is now an anti-Bruce zone. You can't go past it.
I haven't read it now. I haven't read it.
For you, sir, it's 50 quid to come into London. Which isn't fucking far off what it is now.
I'd have died of paying 20 quid to get into London.
Andrew Niles is saying this is turning into a 4 Yorkshireman sketch. That'll be the
lucky bastard.
There's only 3 of us though. And I'm not from Yorkshire. Fucking hell.
This is because we're tight. Well, this again, the Southern Mariners letting you down. Where's Sam?
He can't do it Saturday, can he? He's too busy for the hobnobbing in London.
He's doing what? He's doing what?
He's nobbing hob.
Hobnobbing. It's when you dip. It's when you dip your.
You're hobbing a knob.
Let's kick Bruce off.
Alex, apologise again.
It's when you dip your biscuit in a cup of tea in it.
We need to do. I now need to do a video thing, like another jingle for apologies, so we can all start doing apologies. So
I listened during the Fenty years, and you never apologised this much, and there were so many more chances you had to apologise for.
Right, Mansfield was great. I thought we performed brilliantly. I thought Bryn Morris had a cracking game that day, and I've been wavering on his performances. He scored a beauty today as well. And it just seemed to peter out a little bit. They seemed to work us out, and it was just a case of not making hay while the sun shone. Is that about right from your guys' perspective?
I wish I'd known it was going on this long. I'd have brought a beer with me.
I know. I didn't bring a drink in here either, and it's really hot in here. I'm not looking forward to doing these in the summer in here. This is going to be awful.
This is turning into what it was like at COVID when you couldn't go down the pub on a Saturday night, isn't it?
I know. Have we missed?
Yeah, we'll have a Zoom. We'll have a Zoom, lads. Get your beers in. We'll have a Zoom.
Oh my God, Christ! I don't miss those days. I'm thinking of getting an electric bike. Does that help if we want to do that?
What are you getting that for?
Well, you get an e-scooter. That'd be funny, yeah.
Oh, could you imagine me? Have you not seen that video of that person that got absolutely poleaxed on that gate? That'd be me.
Oh, that's hilarious. On that metal farm gate or whatever it was. That was brilliant. Yeah, that was good.
Could you imagine me doing it? The dent on that poor gate.
You're like, what gate? What gate?
Yeah. Sticking out my ear. Right, we're done. I'm done. I'm going to be at the England game tomorrow. I'm going to look forward to doing that. Crawley on Tuesday night. I've got to talk people through that. And I'll go and don't disgrace us. And because no one has given our flag back, welcome back the keeper's shaped flag.
Oh, it's not, is it?
Is it going to Wembley?
Yeah.
Oh, it is, yes.
Could you imagine if I took it to Wembley?
Southgate out.
Yeah. Lose 5-0.
Right, Alex, just do me one thing, right? One thing, right? Or two things when you go to an England home game. I took Maisie last year when we did the double header for England and Aldershot last year.
Why were England playing Aldershot?
Wembley, we did a double header. And Wembley, do not put your light on your phone. It is not a pop concert. All right? Don't let your lad, no matter, even if he's 9, do not let him do that. And do not let him take a begging banner for a shirt, because that winds me up something rotten.
He's in the top tier. It'll be a fucking good throw.
That doesn't stop them, mate. When I went, it was a cross between a charity night and a pop concert. I tell you,
it's like a Rod Stewart concert. This pod now, isn't it?
It's like Luton away.
Yeah.
Done. Great stuff.
Done.
Any AOB?
Brighton?
No, we'll do that another time. See you later, guys. Bye. See you, Crawley. Bruce, see you at Crawley.
Yeah, bye.
Open wide for some soccer!
And now the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency at 1130. Go! At 1130.
They've done it! They've done it! It's Maguire Drew! They've done it again, this team!
What a magnificent piece of football! Really, really good goal! You can't legislate for that! Grimsby are heading back to the Football League.
Love it.